Growing up in a nowhere town meant one thing: your secrets didn't belong to you. Everyone knew what you had for breakfast, who your father cursed at last night, and how much change you dropped at the gas station. Privacy was a luxury reserved for the dead. I didn't mind. I learned to thrive in the cracks of everyone else's crumbling lives, watching, waiting. There was this kid back in elementary school, a kid the others used like a punching bag, a joke with shoes. Let's call him Ethan. He lived just a short walk from my place, barely a quarter mile. His family existed on the edge of poverty, tucked inside a battered trailer with a roof that always looked like it was on the verge of surrendering to the sky. Pathetic, really. Ethan's father broke his back every day at some dingy factory while his mother played nurse to their older son, a vegetable of a human who couldn't walk, couldn't talk, couldn't even feed himself without choking. I always wondered why they kept him alive at all. Mercy would have been kinder. But no, they clung to him like a curse they refused to lift. Despite it all, Ethan's parents tried their damnedest to carve out something resembling stability. I'll give them that. But kids like Ethan? They never stood a chance. He reeked half the time, oily hair plastered to his forehead, shirts with stains older than my sneakers, shoes that barely held together. And kids? Kids can sniff out weakness like blood in the water. They pounced, relentless. My so-called friends were the worst of them. They mocked him, laughed at him, cornered him just to get a reaction. But me? I watched. I never stopped them. I never helped, either. I just watched. Like a vulture circling a dying thing, waiting to see how long it would twitch. But Ethan and I had one sliver of shared humanity: Transformers. Yeah, robots in disguise. Every Christmas, every birthday, he'd clutch a new one like it was a bar of gold. It was sad, really. I remember the day I gave him a DVD of the live-action movie on the bus. 4th grade. He looked at it like I'd handed him the moon. I didn't do it to be kind. I wanted to see what hope looked like in someone who didn't deserve it. But that light? It didn't last. Ethan was unraveling. Years of being ignored, mocked, and growing up in a house where all the oxygen was sucked up by a brother who couldn't speak, it hollowed him out. I watched the change, from across the classroom. From kindergarten to 6th grade, I saw it all. The way his eyes dulled. The way his hands would twitch. The silence, then the outbursts. No one noticed but me. No one cared. Eventually, my own life derailed. School became a prison I couldn't navigate. My parents yanked me out, decided homeschool would fix me. It didn't, but it gave me time to think, time to observe. From my window, I'd see Ethan every day, walking those long 4 miles of cracked road like some ghost stuck on repeat. He muttered to himself, words tangled in anger and nonsense. Then, one day, he vanished. I didn't notice his absence at first. My world had become quieter, more distant from the cruelty of public school. But then 8th grade rolled in, and I realized something: I hadn't seen Ethan in weeks. Not on the road. Not muttering to the cows. Nothing. Curiosity itched at the back of my mind. So I texted Josh, one of the few friends I had who still wandered those filthy school halls. I asked if he'd seen Ethan. His reply was short. Cold. He brought a gun to school. I remember reading it 3 times, letting it sink in. Josh told me Ethan had asked some girl out, Madison or Maggie, something like that. She laughed in his face. Not just her, the whole damn hallway joined in. Laughter can be sharper than any blade. And Ethan? He'd already been bleeding for years. The next day, he came to school with his father's handgun. A real one. He waited like a predator, stalking his prey. When the girl walked into the locker room, he followed. Pulled the weapon out, raised it to fire. Click. Nothing. No bullets. No bang. Just the sharp, final sound of failure. A janitor had seen him enter after her, his last-minute savior, or hers, depending on how you want to look at it. The guy tackled Ethan before anyone got hurt. But the damage was done. The moment you bring a gun to school, your life turns into something else, something broken beyond repair. They locked him away in juvie. 3 years. A cage for a boy who was already trapped in a life far worse than prison. He served his time, but time didn't heal anything. When he came out, he wasn't a person anymore. He was a shadow, thin and feral, roaming the roads like some post-apocalyptic soldier with no war left to fight. He wore this bomber jacket, the kind you'd see in military surplus stores, and a beret like he thought he was some forgotten general. Every day, rain or blistering heat, he'd march that same stretch of road, ranting to cows and screaming at passing cars. No school. No job. Just endless repetition. I ran into him once. I was riding my bike down to Ryan's place, and I spotted him walking that same familiar path. Something told me to stop, curiosity or stupidity, I'll never know. I said hi, tried to sound casual, like we were just two old school buddies catching up. He turned to me like he'd just emerged from a battlefield. His eyes burned, sunken and wild. He screamed at me. Said he'd kill me and my family for bullying him. I didn't wait for him to say more. I pedaled fast, took the long way back home that night. That should have been the last time. I thought the story ended there, me, alive and safe, him, lost in whatever haunted place his mind had become. But life doesn't always hand you a clean ending. Sometimes, it waits until you let your guard down. And that summer? The summer after my freshman year of college, that was when Ethan came back into my life. That first summer home after college should have been uneventful. Sunburns, bad Wi-Fi, beer with high school friends who never left town. I thought I'd grown past that cursed road, past Ethan. But some stories don't let go. They wait for you, just like he did. It was a typical humid evening, the kind where the air feels like warm breath on your neck. I was driving home with the windows down, fresh from a late-night gas station run for snacks and caffeine. The road was empty except for one shape moving along the shoulder. Ethan. Same walk. Same jacket. Same look like the world owed him blood. I slowed down slightly, not out of concern, but instinct. His head jerked up, and for a heartbeat, our eyes locked. His mouth twisted into a grotesque grin, and he screamed a single word. Kill. I floored it. I live off that road. I knew he didn't know exactly which house was mine, but that scream echoed in my mind like a war drum. As I turned down the gravel path that led to my home, I checked the mirror. He was running. Sprinting like something primal had taken over. My hands were cold on the wheel. I pulled into the garage and slammed the door shut before he could get close. Heart pounding, I went inside and didn't say a word. Just smiled at my mom, waved to my dad, pretended everything was normal. But I stayed alert, ears tuned to every creak of wood, every gust of wind slapping against the windows. That night, I tried to sleep. The air in my room was stuffy, heavy. I cracked the window open, hoping the summer breeze would ease it. Around 2 a.m., I stirred. A noise outside my door, a faint, cautious creak. I dismissed it. Maybe Mom heading to the kitchen, or Dad checking on something. Then another creak. This time, I recognized it. The one that always came when I stood in front of my closet. I froze. A shape, tall, wiry, stood bathed in pale moonlight from the open window. My breath caught in my throat. He was inside. Ethan was in my room. He didn't speak. He just stood there, twitching slightly, like a wire under pressure. I moved quickly, silently. I didn't want to know what he brought with him. Knife? Gun? Rope? Some twisted homemade tool of revenge? I bolted for the door and flung it open, shouting at the top of my lungs as I hit the hallway. Wake up! Run! My parents scrambled from their room, confused, panicked. Behind me, I heard footsteps, his. Fast. I turned just in time to see Ethan hurl himself down the stairs and vanish into the darkness beyond the front door. We called the police. My father, still in his boxers, gripped the phone with trembling hands, rattling off the details. Ethan's name. What he wore. Where he lived. They promised they'd find him. But they never did. The police came, of course, lights flashing like we were part of some TV drama. They walked around with flashlights and questions. Took our statements. Promised they'd handle it. But when they went to Ethan's trailer at the edge of town, it was empty. Abandoned. No footprints. No sign of him. It was like he'd vanished back into the night he came from, swallowed by the woods or the shadows or maybe just his own madness. And that was it. No follow-up. No patrol cars on our street. No warrant. No search. Just silence. That night carved something into me, an infection of fear. Every creak in the house felt like a warning. Every knock, every shadow outside the window pulled my thoughts back to that moment. His voice. His shape. His breath in my room. And that threat. I couldn't stay. None of us could. Within the year, my parents sold the house and moved out west. I stayed in school, finished my degree, got a job far away. But part of me still looks over my shoulder every time I visit home. Because you don't forget eyes like Ethan's. Not when they looked at you like death was just waiting for the right moment to arrive. 7 years have passed. No one's heard from him. No arrests. No sightings. Just stories, someone claiming they saw a man in a bomber jacket screaming at a tree line off the highway. But those are just campfire tales. Right? I tell myself he's locked away somewhere. Maybe someone finally got him the help he always needed but never got. Maybe he's sedated, silent, padded room kind of quiet. But deep down, I know better. Some people rot quietly. Others wait. I still replay it all. The bus rides. The DVD I gave him. The way I watched him fall apart and did nothing but spectate. I never mocked him. Never threw a punch or laughed with the crowd. But maybe that was worse. Maybe being the one who just watched it all happen, knowing exactly how dark the road could get, makes me just as guilty. He was a broken boy in a broken world. And now? Now he's a ghost in mine. I don't open windows anymore. I don't walk at night. I keep my doors locked, my curtains drawn, and when a creak echoes through the house, I listen. Always. Because if Ethan ever comes back, I know one thing for certain. He won't leave empty-handed.